The day their father was buried, the sky was quiet and gray, as if even the weather understood that something heavy had happened. People from the neighborhood came to offer prayers and kind words. The house was full, yet it felt empty. The two brothers stood on opposite sides of the room, greeting guests, but not looking at each other much. Grief does strange things to people. It can bring hearts closer, or it can slowly pull them apart. Their father had not been a rich man in the beginning. He had started with nothing but a small rented shop and big determination. For years he worked long hours, fixing machines with his own hands, saving every extra coin. Slowly that small shop grew into a modest factory on the edge of town. It was not grand, but it was stable. It fed the family, paid school fees, and built the house they were standing in now. The older brother had always believed he understood the business better. As a teenager, he would stand beside his father in the factory, watching every move. He was sharp, confident, and quick to speak. He often said he wanted to expand the factory into something much bigger one day. The younger brother was different. He was quieter and more patient. He listened more than he talked. He helped where he was told, never arguing, never demanding praise. When their father fell sick months earlier, both sons had stayed close, but in different ways. The older one handled paperwork and talked about future plans. The younger one sat beside the hospital bed, adjusting pillows and making sure medicines were taken on time. Their father had noticed everything, even when he seemed too weak to speak. A week after the funeral, the family gathered in the living room for the reading of the will. The air felt thick. Their mother sat silently on the couch, holding a handkerchief in her hands. A family lawyer, an old friend of their father, cleared his throat before opening the envelope. The older brother crossed his arms and leaned back. He looked serious, but inside, he was confident. He believed he knew what was coming. After all, he had big ideas for the factory. He had discussed expansion plans many times. He assumed his father trusted his ambition. The younger brother sat forward, hands resting on his knees. He did not seem nervous. In his mind, whatever their father had decided would be right. He had always believed that. The lawyer began reading slowly. The house, the one filled with memories of childhood laughter and family dinners, was left to both sons equally. That part seemed fair. Then came the part about the factory. The factory, along with full management control, was left to the younger brother. There was a short pause in the room, as if even time needed a moment to react. The older brother's expression changed instantly. His jaw tightened. He sat up straight. The lawyer continued. The older brother would receive a piece of land outside the city and a significant amount of savings from the bank. It was not a small share. In fact, by value, it was close to equal. But it was not the factory. The factory was the heart of everything. Silence filled the room once the reading ended. Their mother looked from one son to the other. Worry cleared her eyes. She knew this moment could either be handled with maturity or turn into something painful. The older brother was the first to speak. His voice was calm at first, but there was sharpness hidden inside it. "This doesn't make sense," he said. "I worked in that factory for years. I handled clients. I planned growth. Why would he give it to you?" The younger brother blinked, surprised by the sudden tension. "I didn't ask for anything," he replied quietly. "This was his decision." "That's easy to say." The older one shot back. "You were always around him at the end. Who knows what you said?" The words hit hard. Their mother gasped softly. The younger brother's face fell. "I never spoke about the will," he said. "I was just taking care of him." But anger does not listen to explanations. It listens only to pride. The older brother stood up and began pacing the room. In his mind, this felt like betrayal. He had imagined himself sitting in their father's office chair, making big deals, expanding to new cities. Now that image felt stolen. "You think you can run that factory?" he said bitterly. "It's not about fixing small machines anymore. It needs vision." The younger brother did not respond immediately. He looked down at his hands. "Maybe he saw something I didn't," he said softly. "Or maybe he believed we would work together." That sentence only made things worse. "Work together?" The older one laughed dryly. "So I work under you now?" Their mother finally spoke, her voice trembling. "Your father loved both of you. He must have had his reasons. But reason was not welcome in that room anymore. The older brother felt his chest tighten. All the years of believing he was a natural successor suddenly felt ignored. He did not see the bank savings as opportunity. He saw them as compensation. He did not see the land as freedom. He saw it as separation. In his heart, a thought began to grow. Maybe he had always been second in his father's eyes. Maybe all his hard work had not been enough. That thought hurt more than the will itself. Without another word, he grabbed his car keys from the table. "I don't need this," he said coldly. "Keep the factory. Run it however you want." He walked toward the door. Their mother stood up quickly. "Please don't leave like this," she begged. But he did not turn back. The door closed with a loud sound that echoed through the house. The younger brother remained seated for a long time after that. He felt confused and heavy. He had not expected this reaction. He had imagined they would sit together, talk about the future, maybe even combine their strengths. Instead, he was left with responsibility and a broken silence. That night, the older brother packed some clothes and drove to the city where he had once considered starting his own venture. His mind was full of anger. He told himself he would prove everyone wrong. He would build something bigger than the factory. He would show that he did not need it. Meanwhile, back at home, the younger brother walked into their father's office for the first time alone. The chair looked the same. The desk still had old files stacked neatly. On the wall hung a framed photo of the family from years ago. He sat down slowly. The weight of responsibility pressed on him. He did not feel victorious. He felt afraid. Running the factory was not a small task. Workers depended on it. Families depended on it. He whispered to himself, "I hope I can do this." Outside, the machines were silent for the night, but morning would come soon. Life would move forward whether the brothers spoke or not. In different cities, under the same night sky, both brothers lay awake. One was filled with determination, mixed with wounded pride. The other was filled with uncertainty mixed with quiet loyalty. Neither of them realized that this decision, this one moment of anger and silence, would shape the rest of their lives. For now, all that existed was distance, and a will that had changed everything. The morning after he left, the older brother woke up in a small rented apartment in the city. The room was quiet and unfamiliar. Sunlight came through thin curtains, but it did not bring warmth. For a few seconds, he forgot everything. Then it all came back. The will, the argument, the way the door had shut behind him. He sat up slowly and stared at his phone. There were no missed calls. Part of him had expected his mother to call, maybe even his younger brother. When no one did, his pride felt confirmed. "Fine," he whispered to himself. "I don't need anyone." He began focusing on his new plan. The money he received from the inheritance was enough to start something solid if he used it wisely. He rented a small office space and began meeting people. He told everyone he was planning to launch a trading company that would deal in industrial equipment. He spoke confidently, as he always had. His words were smooth. His ideas sounded impressive. Inside, however, he carried a heavy feeling. Every time someone mentioned family business experience, he felt a small sting. He avoided talking about the factory back home. Instead, he said he wanted to build something modern and independent. Back in hometown, the younger brother stood in front of the factory gates early each morning. The workers looked at him differently now. Some were curious. Some were worried. They had known the father for years. They trusted him. But this new leader? They were unsure. On his first day officially in charge, he gathered everyone in the main hall. His voice was not loud, but it was steady. "I know I am not my father," he said honestly, "but I promise I will do my best. This factory is not just a business. It feeds our families. I will not let it fall." The workers exchanged looks. There was something sincere in his tone. He did not speak like a boss. He spoke like someone who understood responsibility. The first few weeks were difficult. Suppliers needed reassurance. Accounts had to be checked carefully. There were small problems that his father used to handle quickly. Now, he had to solve them alone. Many nights, he stayed late in the office, going through files and trying to understand old contracts. At home, their mother watched him quietly. She noticed how tired he looked, but also how determined he seemed. She wanted to talk about the older brother, but each time she tried, the younger one gently changed the subject. He did not want to speak badly about his own blood. In the city, things seemed to move faster. The older brother found a business partner who shared his ambitious mindset. They signed a lease for a warehouse and began importing equipment. At first, orders came in steadily. He felt alive again, energized by meetings and negotiations. One evening, while signing a contract, he thought briefly about how his father would react if he saw this. For a moment, he felt proud. Then another thought followed. If he had been given a factory, he could have expanded it just like this. The idea returned like a quiet ache. Still, he pushed the feeling away. Success would erase everything, he believed. Months passed. The younger brother made a small but important decision. Instead of trying to expand too quickly, he focused on improving quality. He repaired old machines instead of replacing them immediately. He personally visited longtime clients and listened to their feedback. Some of them were surprised to see him show up himself. "You didn't send a manager?" one client asked. "I am the manager," he replied with a small smile. Slowly, trust began to grow. Orders became more regular. Workers noticed that he never shouted, even when mistakes happened. He corrected quietly and worked alongside them when necessary. Respect does not grow from fear. It grows from fairness. One afternoon, while cleaning his father's old desk, he found a notebook tucked into the bottom drawer. It was filled with handwritten notes, reminders, small lessons, even personal thoughts. On one page, a sentence stood out: "Patience builds what pride destroys." He read it twice. Meanwhile, in the city, the older brother's company faced its first serious challenge. A shipment arrived late due to customs delays. Clients grew impatient. His partner suggested cutting corners to recover losses quickly. "It's just business," the partner said casually. "No one will notice small changes in quality." The older brother hesitated. He had always valued reputation. But pressure can blur judgment. Bills needed to be paid. Employees expected salaries. After a long silence, he agreed. The decision solved one problem but created another. A few weeks later, a major client complained about defective equipment. Refund demands came in. Their reputation suffered. Tension grew between him and his partner. Arguments became frequent. Trust began to crack. At night, he lay awake, staring at the ceiling. For the first time, doubt crept into his confidence. Running a business alone was not as simple as giving orders. Every choice had consequences. Back in hometown, the factory celebrated a small milestone, completing a large order ahead of schedule. The workers clapped when the final shipment left the gate. The younger brother did not give a long speech. He simply thanked them for their effort and ordered tea for everyone. Their mother watched from the office window, tears forming in her eyes. She wished both her sons could see this moment together. She tried calling the older brother again one evening. This time he answered. "How are you?" she asked gently. "I'm fine," he replied quickly. "Your brother is working very hard," she said carefully. "He asks about you." There was a pause. "I'm busy," he said. "Tell him I'm doing well." She wanted to say more, but his tone had closed the door. As the year moved forward, the difference in their paths slowly became clearer, though neither fully saw it yet. The younger brother continued building relationships step by step. He hired a young technician and personally trained him. He introduced small bonuses for workers who showed extra dedication. Profits were not huge, but they were steady. The older brother chased larger deals to recover losses. Some worked, some failed. Each success gave temporary relief. Each failure hit harder than before. One rainy evening, he drove past a large industrial building and imagined his company's name displayed on it. The vision still lived inside him, but now it felt heavier, harder to reach. He checked his phone again that night. Still no message from his brother. What he did not know was that the younger brother often typed messages and deleted them before sending. He did not know how to bridge the gap without reopening old wounds. Both brothers were working hard. Both believed they were right. But one was building slowly with patience. The other was running fast with pride. And somewhere between distance and silence, the bond they once shared as children continued to fade, replaced by unspoken words and stubborn hearts. Neither understood yet that the real cost of inheritance was not money or property. It was a space growing between them day by day. 2 years passed, and life no longer felt like it used to. In the hometown, the factory did not look like the same old place anymore. The paint on the walls had been refreshed. The broken signboard at the gate had been replaced with a simple but clean new one. Inside, machines ran more smoothly. The sound of work filled the air every morning, steady and confident. The younger brother had changed too. He no longer looked unsure when giving instructions. His voice had grown firmer, not louder, just steadier. The workers trusted him now. They came to him not only with work problems, but also with personal concerns. He listened carefully, sometimes offering advice, sometimes simply offering understanding. He had learned something important. Leadership was not about showing power. It was about carrying responsibility without complaining. The business was not huge, but it was healthy. Profits had improved slowly. He had paid off old small debts his father had left behind. He had even started setting aside savings for future expansion, though he had not rushed into anything yet. One afternoon, a well-known supplier visited the factory. After touring the place, the supplier nodded with approval. "You've done well here," the man said. "Your father will be proud." The younger brother felt a quiet warmth in his chest. Those words meant more than any contract. In the city, things were not as stable. The older brother's company had grown quickly at first, but had grown without strong roots. The partner he trusted began making decisions without informing him. Payments were delayed. Clients started negotiating harder. Competition increased. One evening, he walked into the warehouse and noticed half the staff whispering among themselves. Work had slowed. Orders were fewer than before. He called his partner into the office. "We need to be careful now," he said. "No more risky deals." His partner leaned back in his chair and shrugged. "Risk is part of growth. If you're afraid, you'll never get ahead." That word, afraid, hit him hard. He had never seen himself as someone who feared anything. Pride pushed him again. "Fine," he replied. "Let's go bigger." They invested in a large shipment that promised high profit. To secure it, he used most of the remaining savings from his inheritance and even took a small loan. He believed this was the move that would fix everything. Weeks later, the deal collapsed. The buyer backed out at the last minute due to financial trouble. The shipment remained in the warehouse, unsold. Loan payments began pressing on him like a heavy weight. For the first time since leaving home, he felt real panic. He stayed late at the office night after night, staring at numbers that refused to improve. The confidence he once carried started to crack. He avoided calls from creditors. He argued more often with his partner, who slowly distanced himself from responsibility. At home in the small apartment, silence felt louder than ever. There was no family noise, no familiar voices, just the sound of traffic outside the window. One night, unable to sleep, he scrolled through social media and saw a post shared by someone from his hometown. It was a photo of the factory. A banner hung at the entrance announcing a new partnership deal. Workers stood smiling in the picture. His younger brother stood in the center, looking calm, not flashy, just steady. Comments below the photo praised the factory's growth and reliability. He stared at the screen longer than he expected. A strange mix of emotions filled him. Pride? Jealousy? Regret? He could not name it. He put the phone down but could not stop thinking. Back in hometown, the younger brother had indeed signed an important contract. It was not a massive national deal, but it was big for them. The agreement would guarantee steady work for the next few years. The night before signing it, he had sat alone in his father's old office. He looked at the same notebook he had found months ago. On another page, his father had written, "Slow growth is strong growth." He smiled faintly. He still missed his older brother, though he rarely said aloud. Sometimes when making big decisions, he wondered what advice his brother would give. Despite everything, he respected his sharp mind. Their mother felt the distance more deeply as time went on. She watched one son rise quietly and the other drift further away. She kept both of their childhood photos in the living room, side by side. She often prayed that they would sit together again one day. In the city, pressure finally reached a breaking point. Creditors demanded payments. The partner suggested selling part of the remaining stock at a loss to recover something. You made these decisions too, the partner reminded him during a heated argument. Don't act like this is all on me. The words were true, and that truth hurt. After the argument, he sat alone in the office chair, staring at the empty desk. For the first time, he allowed himself to think honestly. Had he left too quickly? Had anger guided him more than logic? He remembered the moment the will was read. He remembered the look on his younger brother's face. Not proud, not happy, just surprised and confused. What if there had been no manipulation? What if his father had truly believed this was the right decision? The thought unsettled him. Days later, he received news that shook him further. A distant relative called to congratulate him, but not for his own success. Your brother's company is becoming one of the most trusted suppliers in the region, the relative said cheerfully. People say he runs it with honesty, just like your father did. He forced a short laugh and ended the call quickly. That night, he could not escape the comparison. He had wanted to prove he was the stronger one, the smarter one. Yet here he was, struggling to keep his business alive, while the factory he had once dismissed was standing firm. Regret does not arrive loudly. It arrives quietly, in the form of questions you cannot ignore. Meanwhile, the younger brother made another careful move. Instead of celebrating too much, he reinvested profits into upgrading safety standards in the factory. He introduced training sessions for workers. Productivity improved even more. Employees began saying something that slowly spread around town. This place feels like family. Those words would have meant a lot to their father. One evening, after closing the office, the younger brother stood outside the factory gate and looked at the sunset. The sky was painted in soft orange and pink shades. He thought about calling his older brother again. He even dialed a number. But before pressing the final button, he stopped. What would he say? Come back. I miss you. Or simply, let's talk? He lowered the phone and slipped it back into his pocket. In the city, the older brother stood by his apartment window, staring at the same sunset from far away. The city lights began to glow one by one. He felt tired, not just physically, but emotionally. For the first time, he admitted to himself that success built on anger does not bring peace. It only brings pressure. He did not yet know what he would do next, but something inside him had shifted. The certainty that he had been wronged was no longer as strong. In its place, a quiet question began to grow. What if walking away had been his biggest mistake? And as both brothers stood under the same fading light, miles apart yet connected by blood, the distance between them felt heavier than ever. The paths they had chosen were now clearly different. One built on patience and steady hands, the other shaken by pride and restless ambition. And the outcome was slowly becoming impossible to ignore. The call from the bank came on a quiet Tuesday morning. The older brother was sitting alone in his office, staring at unpaid invoices spread across his desk. His phone vibrated, and when he saw the bank's name on the screen, his stomach tightened. The conversation was short and formal. The loan payment was overdue. If he failed to settle it within the given time, legal steps would begin. The tone was polite, but the message was clear. After the call ended, he sat still for a long time. The warehouse was half empty now. A few workers had already left after months of delayed salaries. His business partner had slowly stepped back, claiming personal issues. In truth, he was protecting himself. The older brother finally admitted something he had refused to accept for years. He could not fix this alone anymore. That evening, instead of going back to his apartment, he drove without direction. The road stretched ahead, and before he realized it, he was on the highway leading to his hometown. He did not plan the trip. He did not inform anyone. He just drove. The journey felt longer than usual. With every mile, memories returned. Childhood fights, shared meals, the sound of their father's voice calling them inside at sunset. When he reached the town, it was already late. The streets looked smaller than he remembered, or maybe his perspective had changed. He parked near the old house, but did not step out immediately. The lights were on inside. He could see shadows moving through the curtains. His heart pounded in his chest. Pride whispered, "Turn back." But exhaustion replied, "Enough." He stepped out of the car. Before he could knock, the door opened. Their mother stood there, frozen for a moment, then her eyes filled with tears. "You came," she said softly, as if she had been waiting every day for this exact moment. He lowered his gaze. "I was nearby," he lied gently. She did not question it. She simply pulled him into a tight embrace. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to relax in her arms. Inside the house, nothing had changed. The same sofa, the same clock ticking on the wall. Their father's photo still hung in its place. His younger brother stepped out of the kitchen when he heard voices. The two men stood face to face after years of silence. Time felt suspended. There was no anger in the younger brother's eyes. No blame. Only surprise. And something else. Relief. "You're here," he said quietly. The older brother nodded. Words felt heavy in his throat. Dinner that night was simple and quiet. Their mother spoke the most, asking about health, work, small everyday things. The brothers answered briefly. The tension was there, but it was different now. It was softer, less sharp. After dinner, their mother went to her room, leaving the two alone in the living room. The silence between them was no longer filled with rage. It was filled with things unsaid. Finally, the older brother spoke. "How's the factory?" The younger brother looked at him carefully before answering. "It's steady. We've grown slowly. I saw some news about it." The older one admitted. "You've done well." "Thank you," came the simple reply. There was another pause. Then the older brother exhaled deeply. "I was angry," he said. "That day, I didn't think clearly." The younger brother did not interrupt. "I felt like everything I worked for was taken away," he continued. "I thought you had convinced him." "I didn't," the younger one said gently. "I swear I didn't." "I know that now," the older brother replied, his voice lower than before. "Or at least, I think I do." Admitting doubt in his old certainty felt strange, but also freeing. He then surprised himself by saying the words he had avoided for years. "My business is not doing well." Saying it out loud made the reality heavier, yet more honest. The younger brother leaned forward slightly. "Is it serious?" "There are loans, losses. I made risky decisions." He let out a small, bitter smile. "I wanted to prove something." "Prove what?" the younger brother asked softly. "That I didn't need the factory." The honesty hung in the air. The younger brother looked down at his hands for a moment before speaking again. "It was never about needing it," he said. "It was about protecting it." The older brother frowned slightly. Without another word, the younger one stood up and walked toward their father's old office. He returned with a folded envelope. "I found this months after you left," he explained. "It was addressed to both of us." The older brother's chest tightened as he took the letter. The handwriting on the envelope was familiar. He unfolded the paper carefully. The letter was simple. Their father wrote that he divided the inheritance based on understanding, not favoritism. He believed the older son had courage and ambition strong enough to build something from nothing. He believed the younger son had patience needed to protect and nurture what already existed. He also wrote one more line that struck deeply. "I hope you will stand together one day, because divided strength becomes weakness." The older brother read the letter twice. His vision blurred slightly. "He trusted me to build my own path," he whispered. "Yes," the younger brother said. "He did." Silence returned, but it felt different now. Not heavy, thoughtful. The next morning, the older brother asked if he could visit the factory. As they walked through the gates together, workers looked surprised. Some recognized him immediately. They greeted him politely. Inside, he noticed the changes right away. Clean floors, organized storage, updated machines. But what caught his attention most was the atmosphere. People worked calmly. There was no fear in their faces. One worker approached the younger brother with a small issue. Instead of shouting instructions, he listened carefully and solved it with a few simple words. The older brother watched quietly. "This place feels peaceful," he admitted. "It took time," the younger one replied. They walked into their father's old office. The chair was the same. The desk was polished. The notebook still lay in one corner. "You kept everything," the older brother said. "It's still our father's place," came the answer. Those words stayed in his mind. Later that afternoon, they sat down to talk seriously for the first time in years. The older brother explained his financial situation honestly. There was no pride left in his tone, only reality. The younger brother listened without judgment. "I can't promise miracles," he finally said, "but we can think together." The older brother looked at him, surprised. "After everything? We are still brothers," the younger one replied simply. In that moment, regret hit harder than ever before. He realized something painful. The inheritance he fought over had never truly divided them. His pride had. Seeing the factory standing strong did not hurt because he wanted it back. It hurt because he saw what he had lost by walking away. He had missed years of shared effort, years of possible partnership, years of simple brotherhood. As they sat in the office, sunlight entered through the window, lighting the room softly. For the first time since the will was read, they were not on opposite sides. They were sitting next to each other. And though nothing was fully solved yet, something important had changed. The distance between them had begun to close, not because of money, but because one finally chose humility over pride, and the other chose forgiveness over resentment. The real outcome of the inheritance was not written in legal papers. It was written in this quiet moment of understanding. And for the first time in years, both brothers felt a small sense of peace. The days after that long conversation felt different. Nothing magical happened overnight. The older brother's debts did not disappear. The factory did not suddenly double in size. But something inside both of them had shifted. The wall that once stood tall between them now had cracks. The older brother extended his stay in the hometown for a few more days. At first, he told himself it was only to think clearly. In truth, he needed to breathe in a place that did not remind him of failure. Every morning, he walked with his younger brother to the factory. He did not step in as a boss. He did not give loud instructions. He simply observed. He noticed small things he had never valued before. How the workers greeted his brother with respect, not fear. How issues were discussed calmly. How decisions were made carefully instead of quickly. One afternoon, while reviewing some inventory records together, the older brother pointed out a possible way to reduce storage costs. "You could rearrange this section," he suggested, tapping the paper. "It would save space and make delivery faster." The younger brother studied the idea seriously. "That's a good point," he admitted. "We should try it." There was no ego in his response, no hesitation to accept advice. That simple moment hit the older brother harder than any argument ever had. He had spent years believing he would have to fight for control if he ever returned. But here he was, offering a suggestion and being heard. Later that evening, as they sat outside the house drinking tea, the older brother spoke quietly. "I thought if I came back, I would feel jealous," he admitted. "But I don't. I feel ashamed." The younger brother shook his head. "There's no need for that." "There is," he insisted. "I broke ties over something that wasn't even unfair. I didn't even try to understand." The younger brother looked at the sky for a moment before answering. "We both lost years," he said gently. "There's no benefit in counting them now." Their mother, who had been listening from inside, wiped her eyes silently. For her, this was the inheritance she had prayed for. Not property, not money, but unity. A week later, reality knocked again. The older brother had to return to the city to face his business situation. Avoiding it would solve nothing. Before leaving, he stood in the factory office one more time. "I don't want charity," he said firmly. "I made mistakes. I'll fix them." The younger brother nodded. "I know you will." There was a short pause before he added, "But you don't have to fix them alone." The older brother looked at him, confused. Without saying much, the younger one opened a file drawer and pulled out a document. "When I took over the factory," he explained, "I updated the ownership papers. Legally, half of this still belongs to you." The older brother froze. "What?" "I never removed your share," he continued calmly. "You walked away, but you're still part of this." The older brother stared at the document in disbelief. "After everything I said? After I accused you?" "You were angry," the younger brother replied. "Anger passes. Blood doesn't." For a moment, the older brother could not speak. He had expected to beg for forgiveness one day. He had expected to earn back trust slowly. He had not expected this quiet loyalty. Tears filled his eyes before he could stop them. "I don't deserve this," he whispered. "This was never about deserving," the younger brother said. "It was about family." That night, the older brother returned to the city, but this time his heart felt lighter. The problems were still there, waiting. Loans, unpaid stock, broken partnerships. But he no longer carried them alone in his mind. Instead of chasing another risky deal, he made a different choice. He met with creditors honestly. He explained the situation without excuses. Some were strict, but others appreciated his transparency. He ended his partnership respectfully, accepting his share of responsibility. He sold part of the remaining stock at a controlled loss to reduce debt pressure. It was painful, but it was real. At the same time, he began discussing something new with his younger brother, a partnership between his trading contact in the city and the factory's production power back home. They did not rush it. They planned carefully. They studied numbers. They argued sometimes, but now the arguments were about strategy, not pride. For the first time, they were using both their strengths together. Months later, a new agreement was signed. Not flashy, not risky, but solid. The factory would produce specialized equipment, and the older brother would handle city distribution, using his connections. It was not the dream of a giant empire he once imagined, but it was stable, honest, sustainable. One evening, during a small family dinner at home, their mother looked at both sons sitting at the same table and smiled peacefully. "You know," she said softly, "your father always believed you two were strongest together." The older brother nodded slowly. "It took me years to understand that." He often thought back to the day he stormed out of the house, convinced he had been betrayed. Now he saw that moment clearly. The inheritance had not been unequal. It had been thoughtful. Their father had seen their personalities more clearly than they saw themselves. One was meant to protect and grow what already existed. The other was meant to explore and expand beyond limits. Separate, those strengths had created struggle. Together, they created balance. The older brother eventually paid off his major debts. It did not happen in one big success. It happened in small, steady steps. And each time he visited the factory, he felt gratitude instead of resentment. One afternoon, while standing near the gate watching workers load a shipment, he turned to his younger brother. "You know what I regret most?" he asked. "What?" came the reply. "Not the money, not the losses. I regret the years I wasted not speaking to you." The younger brother smiled faintly. "We can't return time," he said, "but we can use what's left wisely." Those simple words stayed with him. As the sun began to set behind the factory building, casting long shadows across the ground, the older brother realized something deeply important. Success is not only about owning something. It is about understanding its value. He once believed inheritance was about property and control. Now he knew it was about trust and responsibility. He once thought walking away proved strength. Now he understood that coming back required far more courage. The outcome he had feared, seeing his brother succeed without him, had become the very reason he grew. Not because he wanted to take anything back, but because it showed him what patience, loyalty, and humility can build over time. And in the end, the greatest inheritance their father left behind was not the factory or the land. It was a lesson. Family can survive anger. Pride can be softened by time. And regret, when faced honestly, can lead to something stronger than before. As the factory lights turned on one by one and workers headed home, the two brothers stood side by side, not as rivals, not as competitors, but as partners. Not divided by inheritance anymore, but united by understanding. And that was the outcome neither of them had expected.